Welcome to Effective Elevator Pitches. What I've done is I've put together some tips. Some of them are on content, what to say, and some of them are on delivery, how to say it, and I've also included some examples of me putting these ideas in action. The idea is that your elevator pitch is somewhere between 30 and 60 seconds, so that is the assumption that we are going to work on. So take a look at these tips and let me know what you think. Most people really misunderstand the purpose of the elevator pitch. An elevator pitch is not there for you to tell someone your entire life story or absolutely everything that you do in 30 to 60 seconds. It's not possible to tell someone everything that you do and everything about you in 30 to 60 seconds. It's not possible to do it in 3 minutes. And if you try, what's going to happen is you're going to create this really anxious experience for the person who's listening to you because you're talking really fast and you're trying to cram everything in, and it's not going to be very engaging, and they're not going to want to talk to you further. Instead, I want you to think of this as an opener, as an invitation, as a way to get people to want to know more. The purpose of this 30 to 60 seconds is just to get people to understand a little bit about you. Let's get them to know, like, and trust you enough to want to speak to you further, to have some follow-up questions, to go, ooh, that person looks really interesting. I'm going to talk to them later. That is the purpose of this elevator pitch. It's not to say everything you do. That is not possible. It's just to give people an idea of who you are and what you stand for, so they want to know more. Assuming that we are doing these elevator pitches in a slightly more formal setting, so let's assume that you're standing up in a meeting and introducing yourself to a group, or you're introducing yourself in a Zoom call, you're not in a kind of more conversational context where the elevator pitch is going to flow more naturally. Assuming that we're in a more formal setting, we're going to follow 4 basic key elements to the structure of your networking pitch to help you stay on track. The first one is saying your name. You must always say your name. Not only at the beginning of your introduction, but also at the end. In fact, it's more important that you say your name at the end. So if you only say it once, rather say it at the end than at the beginning. And the reason for that, even though it feels very natural to stand up and say, "Hi, my name is Danielle Benson," if it's the first time that people are getting to know me, if they haven't had any experience of me before this moment, they're probably not listening and they probably don't care. So they're not going to remember my name if I only say it at the beginning. But if I've done a good elevator pitch and I've got their attention and they're interested in speaking to me, now that's when they want to hear my name. So I need to say it also at the end for the people who weren't listening at the beginning, but now they're really excited to talk to me, and I don't want them to be too scared to talk to me because they're like, oh, this person is so wonderful, but what was her name again? The second element is the content or the body of your elevator pitch. Now, I don't believe that there's only one way to do an elevator pitch. I believe that every person is different, every industry is different, every room is different, and so I don't follow that kind of idea that there's only one way to do an elevator pitch. I think it does depend on the person and it depends on the situation. So I'm going to give you 3 examples, 3 of the most common examples, and I'm going to demonstrate those so that you have a good idea of what I'm talking about and you can choose your own. The 3 examples I'm going to give are a problem and solution, a case study, and talking about your passion or your why. Then you can choose what feels best for you. The third element is a call to action, and a call to action is extremely important. If you've gone through all this process of getting people to know, like, and trust you, you need to do something with that. Give them somewhere to go. Invite them to get to know you better somehow. They need to know what to do next. So even if it's a very vague call to action, like I'd love to speak to you further, or I'd love to discuss this with you in person or in an interview, or go check out my website for more information, that's fine. Just give them something to do next. If you have something very specific that you want to ask for that. That's fantastic. Whatever you do, just give them some sort of next step so that they can get to know you better and they can continue this discussion that you have worked so hard to begin. The fourth element is a bonus element. So you don't need to include this element at all. Your elevator pitch will be complete without it, but if you want to add it on, you're welcome to. Now, it actually goes right at the beginning. So before you say your name for the first time, the fourth element is the attention grabber. So that's before you say your name, you say something to really get people's attention. It could be a question, it could be a disruptive statement, It could be something that gets people's ears to perk up. It's an attention getter. And a lot of people use this extremely effectively. But if you're not comfortable with it, or it doesn't suit your personality, or if it doesn't suit your industry, it can really fall flat. So please do, think about it before you decide to use an attention grabber, and make sure that it suits your personality, it suits your style, and that you feel very comfortable using it. Rather leave it out than use it if you're unsure. If you like it, if you think it adds personality to your introduction, then please leave it in. As far as delivery goes, I have 3 tips for you. The first tip is to use the body language of confidence. What I mean by that is you want to be facing the audience, so your feet are facing the audience, your pelvis is facing the audience, and your chest is facing the audience. Everything is lined up and facing forward. And you are grounded, so you're standing on both feet. The weight is evenly distributed over both feet, sitting into the pelvis a little bit, not up on your toes, but nice and grounded in your body. Your spine is straight, your sternum is open, so just lift the chest a little bit, not in a military way, but just a little bit in a nice, confident way. And you're taking up space, so don't hide behind a chair, don't put your hands on anything. Make sure that there's enough space for you to move, and then own that space. Use it. That is the body language of confidence. The second tip is to breathe and use the breath when you speak. It's not enough just to breathe the first time and then have little top-up breaths. Real breaths every time. And what I mean by real breaths is breathing into your belly, breathing into your floating ribs. So you're going to fill yourself up with breath every time you breathe. And then it's not enough just to breathe deeply. You also have to use that breath when you speak. So you fill yourself up and then use the breath that you have breathed in while you're speaking. That is going to give you the voice of confidence. Your voice will reach the back of the room if you're speaking to a crowd, and you sound grounded, you sound confident, you sound like you know what you're doing. So the second thing is to breathe deeply and also use that breath when you speak. The third is to use gestures, and more importantly, to start with a gesture. A lot of us don't know what to do with our hands, and so we stand up and we start talking and our hands are by our sides, and then it's really hard to get them in halfway through because they're kind of dead weight at the side of my body there and I don't know what to do with them. So instead, best practice is as you start speaking, you bring your hands up in an open gesture. Think of it like hugging someone welcome or saying hello, waving hello. It's the same kind of thing. When you start to speak, you use an open gesture. So for example, hello, my name is Danielle Benson. See how easy that is? Now my hands are here and I can use them or not use them, but it feels natural. If I start with my arms by my sides, it feels very awkward to bring them in halfway through. Start with a gesture and then you don't need to think about your hands from there on. The fourth thing, I know I said there were only 3, but there's a fourth, there's a bonus. The bonus point on delivery is to be interested in what you say. Please be interested in what you're saying. Most people, it's easy enough to be interested in how they help people and who their clients are and what they're passionate about, but you also need to be interested in who you are. So when you're saying your name, that's gotta sound interesting to you. Most of us say our name a lot in our lives, and we get kind of bored with it. And then the problem is that it ends up with something like this. Hi, my name is Danielle Benson of Inspired Coaching, and what I do is I help people to get really passionate and excited about what they're saying. You see how that's a problem? I'm sounding bored with my own name, or I'm rushing through my own name. My name is really important to the people who are listening. Sure, I've heard it a million times. I've heard my business name a million times, and I want to just rush through it and get to the interesting stuff. But for them, it's very important. I want them to remember who I am, and I want them to get a good impression of my name. I want them to associate my name and my business name, if I have one, or my job description, as something that they like, as something that they are interested in. And the easiest way to do that is for me to be interested in it. So instead of rushing through it, pay as much attention to your name as to the rest of your introduction. Hi, my name is Danielle Benson, and what I do is I help people to take what they really love and show how much they love it through speech. Do you see how there was an equal amount of interest all the way through. I even slowed down a little bit on my name, and that is a really good practice to do because people are hearing it for the first time. If it's a difficult name or it's something they haven't heard before, it's nice to just slow down a little bit, give it a little bit of extra oomph so they can really remember who you are, because you don't want them to not talk to you because they can't remember your name. So let's jump into some examples. The optional attention grabber. Let's start with a question. Do you ever feel like your voice betrays you? You stand up to speak and you introduce yourself with a squeak in your voice? I know how you feel. My name is Danielle Benson. Or the disruptive statement. I hate small talk. I hate the idea that we have to be safe and leech ourselves of all of our personality just to be socially acceptable. I want to live in a world where people are weird and wonderful and quirky and talented, and that we embrace that. My name is Danielle Benson, and I work with speakers and business owners to be their best, authentic, confident selves on camera and in person. The No Frills introduction. My name is Danielle Benson, and I run the Inspired Speaker Academy. The problem solution. The fear of speaking in public holds back so many business owners and professionals when it comes to showing up and giving their business the representation that it deserves and reaching those clients that really need their help. My job is to help those people to conquer their stage fright and master their voice-body instrument so that they show up as their best, most authentic, confident, and powerful selves and make a really good impression, no matter whether or not the event is being recorded, no matter how stressful it may be, and no matter who may or may not be in the room. The case study. One of my favorite client stories is of one of my first clients who was an introverted scientist, and she'd written this book, and now she had to give a presentation on the book. And she was super nervous. This was way out of her comfort zone. So she came to me and we worked together on her presentation, and she did an amazing job. When she did her presentation, she was confident, she came across as really intelligent and insightful, and it was really engaging. But there were a couple of added benefits of working with me. The first is that her husband's hearing magically improved. He was no longer asking her to repeat herself all the time. And the second is that when she was working in the kitchen and she had to call the kids in for dinner, she no longer had to leave the kitchen and go outside to the garden to call them in. She could call them in from the kitchen because her voice was loud and powerful. Sharing your passion. We live in a world where people seem to equate professional with boring and dull and lifeless. I'm not quite sure when it happened, but somehow our society collectively decided that in order to be taken seriously, in order for people to think of us as an authority and someone who is trustworthy, we have to leech all of our personality, all of our quirks and wonderful things about us away so that we are left with this dull, boring husk. It's not actually true. The things that make us interesting are also the reason that people want to work with us. But we have this idea in our heads that in order to be professional, we need to be boring and neutral. I want to live in a world where human beings embrace and celebrate what makes them different, what makes them quirky and real and raw and passionate and talented. So my job is to help business owners and speakers embrace who they are, embrace their weird, wacky wonderfulness, the things that make them stand out, the things that make them special, and communicate those in a professional and masterful way by mastering the voice-body instrument so that they can show up as confident and quirky and professional. The call to action. If you'd like to hear more about what I do, please do come and talk to me. I also offer free vocal needs assessments for anyone who is interested in finding out what their voice can do for them. My name is Danielle Benson, and I run the Inspired Speaker Academy. And now it's your turn. Take my 4-step formula, adjust it to suit your needs, remember my tips on delivery, and then come up with your own 30 to 60 second elevator pitch. I can't wait to see what you create.